Hey, this is Professor Homa. Welcome back to EX8 shipping address. This is part 2. We're going to be working on the JavaScript. And here's our JavaScript. There's nothing here right now. And one thing we do want to look at is our HTML. And we're going to want to get the value information from all of these fields, and they're identified by ID, so we're going to use the get element by ID, and we're going to start that off, and then we're going to display this information in these fields down at the bottom, the full name, the address, and we're going to be creating a lot of variables because it'll be easier to put this information together. Since we're going to be concatenating and putting things together so that it adds first name and last name together. It's going to put street and city together with a comma, and then the state and the zip code. It's going to be putting a lot of things together. It's easier to do that if we have variables because there's just less words to deal with. So we're going to start our JavaScript, and we're going to start writing some variables. And again, your JavaScript file, since it's a separate JavaScript file, you don't need a script tag, you don't need anything. We could just start writing in our JavaScript, and I'm going to start with vars. So I'm going to use first name, last name, street, city, state, zip. So those are going to be all my vars. The vars are going to be the same thing as those. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to start off with first name. And you want to make sure you spell them the same way. And that's going to be equal to document dot, we're going to get element by ID. And then the ID we're going to use for this first one is going to be first name. And then after this, we're going to put dot value, because that's what we're going to want. We're going to want the value of that, not just the actual form field. We're actually going to want the value that people type into that. So that's the way we're going to do this. So I'm gonna do the same thing for all my other variables. For last name, for city, state, I'm going to do that. So let me pause this, and I'll finish that up. Okay, I'm also going to create variables for these IDs down here, for the full name, street address, and city, state, zip. And those are going to be the ones that are kind of concatenating or putting everything together. So I do have city, street, zip. I think I have everything together here. And I'll go back to my JavaScript as I have street, city, state, zip. That's the way it should go after first name and last name. And then I copied this here, and I'm going to make another one called full name. And that's going to be the first name and the last name. But I just want to make sure that I have that area identified. Let me see. Yeah, it is called full name with a capital N. So let me make sure that I do that. It's full name, at least that's the way I have it in there. It's full name with a capital N. And I'm going to copy this and put this in the ID. The ID should be the same. And I'm going to take out value. I had copied this from one of these, but I don't need value in there. I just want that area. And then I'm going to copy this 2 more times. And I'm going to do it for street address. And I think I used camel case for these. And then every time I type this, I'm just going to copy it and paste it in here. And then I'll paste this one more time. Or I'll copy this whole line one more time. And I'll paste it. And this last one is going to be city, state, zip. Each time there's a break, it's starting with a capital letter. And let me just check my HTML and make sure I have these things right. City, state, zip, with capital S, capital Z, capital A, capital N there. So everything's okay from what I'm seeing so far. So I have all my variables. Now I'm eventually going to have to put this all inside a function, but we can write some of this first, and then we'll put it all inside a function. Because what's going to happen here is we're basically going to take that area that's full address, and we're going to put that inside the full address. We're going to combine all the information that we get from these. We're going to combine first name and last name and all that and put it together as full name and all that. So we have to do that next. So to display things on the page, what we're going to do is we're going to identify these areas that we just identified. So I'm going to say full name. And I'm just going to do .inner HTML. And this is going to be the part that writes it into the page. And what's going to happen when we do the inner.html, it's basically going to equal first name. And then it's going to be plus last name. So we're going to put plus. This will concatenate. Now if we do that just as it is right now, what's going to happen with this, it's going to put the first name and last name together. So what we're going to need is a space in between there. So I'm going to put quotes and a space, and then I'll have to put another plus sign. And you could put, you could put spaces between here if you want. And what that'll do is it'll concatenate this empty space in between first name and last name, because people don't typically run their first name and last name together. Now we're going to do some more of that with the next line, so I'll copy this again. And this time it's going to be street address. So I'll just copy this variable. And street address is basically going to be, it's going to be the city. Actually, it's going to be the street. That's all we need here. And then, as we don't have it broken down any further, and then the last one is going to be city, state, zip, and that's where we're going to put all those three together. I'll paste them and do the dot inner HTML. And this one will be equal to city. And then we're going to do plus. Actually, when we do plus, we're not going to do a space yet. We're actually going to put a quote, and we'll put a comma space, because if you do the city, there'll be a comma space before the state. And then we'll do plus, and then we'll do the state. And then we'll do the plus again. And then we'll put another space before the zip code, and then we'll plus the zip. And that should be it. The only thing that we're missing here is we don't have a way to make this be uppercase yet for the state. Now we could do it in a couple places. We could try to do it in here. We could do it under here. One of the things that I did in the original was actually put another variable down here. After you declare it with the var, you don't have to put var anymore. So I'm just going to put state equals state, and we're going to use the to uppercase method. And there you can see it comes up here, to uppercase. And we'll put that method. And what that'll do is whatever the value comes in there, it'll convert it to uppercase, so that if people put in a lowercase PA, New Jersey, anything like that, it'll get converted to uppercase. We could put it here, we could put it in different places, but for now, I could do it like that. So this is all our information that's going in there, and what I'm going to do is, we don't have it really generating yet, and it has to be generated by the submit button. So what we're going to do, since we're in an external file, we're not going to put anything in the regular HTML. I'm going to call this a function, and I could just call it display address, or whatever you want to call it. And I'll do my brackets, and I'm going to have to take this bracket and move it down, because this will be a closing bracket at the end. So everything will be inside the function here. The variable names, all that will be inside here. And then what I'll do after the function is I'm going to make the button run the function. So what I can do is look at my HTML, and I can see that the button, the ID is submit, so I could get that from using the ID. So I'll go back here and I'll do document get element by ID, and the ID I'm going to get is going to be submit. And then I'm going to do the dot on click equals, and then I'm going to run the function. So I'm going to define the function, and I'll put the display address here. And that should run the function. So I'm going to save this, and then I'll take a look at it. All right, here's my HTML, and I'm going to go test it again. I'll just preview it in Chrome and just see what happens so far. I don't think I have everything right so far. And here's our form, and and you can see already something's not right. I see a comma in there already, but let me just try it out. I'm just going to put Steve. Nothing's happening yet. I know one of the things I did wrong already, if I go back to my JavaScript, is I don't want the parentheses here in my JavaScript. That should actually not be in there, because if I want to run it, I don't necessarily want the parentheses in there. That's for defining it, and I don't want them in there for now when I actually run the function this way. So let me save that. and I'll just put that to start and see what happens. And there it is. It put in the name. It also put in a comma, but I don't have any information there yet. So it's already putting in the comma there because that's the other information. So it's putting everything even if it's blank. So we're going to have to do some validations to fix that, but actually it's kind of working. If I finish it off here, and I'll hit submit, and now it's actually putting that name in there, Steve Smith, Allentown, PA 18104. It's not putting the street address, and maybe we did something wrong there, so we'll have to check that out. So a couple things we're going to troubleshoot, and then we'll work on the code a little bit more.